Well, hello everyone, and great to see everyone here. This is Jean McDowell with TradersCoach.com, and welcome to Wednesday Night Live. We've got a great event for you tonight. We've got Bennett McDowell presenting how to become a rock star bean counter overnight. And Bennett, of course, is an expert in technical analysis, money management, psychology for traders, and more. And Bennett, without further ado, I will turn it over to you.
All right, Jean, thanks so much. Great to be here, everybody, and welcome. All right, so today is April 20th, 2022. And so today we're going to talk about how to become a rock star bean counter overnight. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the importance of keeping track of your trades and also to owning up to your trades. You know, if you have a bad trade, own up to it, but also keep good records. That's really important. So let's go ahead and jump in. We have to course quickly just tell you about the risks involved in trading. We deal in a realm of probabilities whenever we trade the financial markets. I think we all know that by now. So just make sure you run everything by either your accountant or your money management manager, your financial advisor, whoever takes care of your money for you, and make sure the ideas that we express here are good for you, because we don't know your personal situation, and of course they do. They know it, and they will be able to tell you what is appropriate for you and what's not. All right, so we want to invite you to our website at TradersCoach.com. We try to add improvements to that website all the time, so always check it out. We got a whole suite of software tools available for you to take a look at, and we also have a number of books available. Most people get our books on Amazon. Wouldn't you say, Jean, that's probably where the number one place they get our books? I think so.
Oh, yeah, that's the easiest one. And actually, I just posted a link where everyone can see them on Amazon.
Oh, super. Okay, so the link's down there. And, you know, you can get it at Barnes & Noble and stuff like that, but I think Amazon's probably the easiest. And we have our new book out right here called a Money Management for Traders book. And what we've done is we've taken the concepts in our bigger book called A Trader's Money Management System, and we put it into a very concise, appropriate set of items you can add to develop your own risk control on the type of style of trading you do. So that's all here. We give you the formulas, all that kind of stuff right in that book, and that's available at Amazon as well. All right, so couple little things here. Back in the 1990s, when I was living in the Upper East Side of New York City, now I'm all the way out in San Diego, big change there. Love it out here in San Diego, a lot less concrete, you know. And looked for a record-keeping system designed specifically for traders like me. And guess what? Back then, there were none. I went to the bookstores. There wasn't really the internet like you have today, but there was really nothing that focused on keeping accurate trades. The software was not what it is today, and it was really difficult. So I really designed one myself. I set out to say, okay, this is what I need to keep track of trades. This is what I need to know what's working and what's not. Because one of the things that I specifically wanted to design was something that not only kept track of trades, but I could also use to analyze my trades. In other words, what was working and what wasn't. You know, it's one thing to keep track of things, but if you can develop a tool to help you learn what rules are working, what aren't, that's a home run. And so that was my design concept when I started out. Now, I was lucky at the time. I was just married my wife, Jean, and she was a graphic designer, and she helped me put this thing together in a really cool layout. And, you know, I would tell her what I wanted, and she would kind of build these things back then. So it was really kind of cool. She went to TIMECODES and printed out the very first version of it, and we call that the Trader's Assistant Record Keeping System. Since then, we've also developed software to do that as well. But don't forget, back in the 1990s, no software yet. All right, so the next thing is when I started using my custom Trader's record keeping system, it instantly worked, okay? It really changed my trading. And because I could analyze it, I could see right in front of me what was working and what's not. The other nice thing about it is I could kind of keep track of trades for that particular moment in time where I wouldn't have to wait back then for a broker statement. So that was kind of cool. It was more real time. And then when I got the broker statement, it allowed me to, of course, check to make sure, kind of like you check your bank to make sure all your debits and credits are correct. Same thing with checking it against my record. So it was really kind of cool to be able to use it that way. All right. So that was really the development of my record keeping system. And by the way, that is in this book, and I'll give you a link to this book in just a bit. Okay, so I want to talk more now about bean counting and how that plays into this whole thing. And whether you know it or not, whether it's trading or any type of business, it's all about the beans and how many beans you have left over at the end of the day, right? Okay, you have to be making money in a profitable venture like trading or any profitable business. So that's really important. And of course, you need to stay on top of those numbers. Now, those of you watching who know me know that I love coffee, right? In fact, I'm surprised I don't have a mug full right here, but I just finished one. All right, so that's another trading tip from me. Coffee makes me a better trader. Why? Because it gets me more alert. All right, but let's now go back to the bean, counting the beans. All right, so this is a story that illustrates, okay, the importance of staying on top of counting the beans. Now I'm going to go all the way back to Henry Ford, who founded the Ford Motor Company. All right, because it's a great story that illustrates the importance of bean counting. Okay, Henry Ford was a true innovator in not only the automobile industry, but in introducing us to many facets of business. The assembly line concept, etc. So he was really pretty innovative. Not only did he build a great automobile at the time, but even Henry, okay, needed a bean counter. And Henry's bean counter was a guy by the name of Norman Cousins. Now, think about yourself, what you really love to do. When you love to do something, and Henry loved to build cars, his mind was not on accounting. It really wasn't on, where every dime was going. His mind was on the bigger concept of building a great car. And, it's kind of like traders. We kind of are thinking about the best trading methods, but we sometimes get so focused on what we love the most that we kind of don't focus on some other things that we need to focus on, like, where's the money going, all right? And is the money coming in type of thing. So Henry Ford had that trouble, but thank goodness he had a guy by the name of Cousins who kept track of that. And that's what accounting departments do for these big companies. But what happened in the early years of the Ford Motor Company was that Henry had a habit of getting caught up, that's what I'm talking about, in the romance and passion of building an automobile. And sometimes he forgot about those pesky details about making a profit, or even depositing checks that he had in his drawer into the bank. I mean, Cousins would come into his office and find these checks for $50,000, $100,000. That's a lot of money back then. All right, and they'd be just sitting in his desk drawer because he just didn't think like that. All right, so Cousins would have to go through there and deposit all those checks. All right, so do you see, however, any similarities between Henry Ford and our business as traders? How about it? Okay, because we're innovative, right? We're focusing on the skill of becoming a great trader. So in doing that, that's our passion. And we may not have our eye on the ball of all the finances. So we kind of keep that, kind of remember that, because I think that's something you can draw off this example. And I can admit that my passion for trading in the beginning sometimes distracted me from those pesky details of making a profit. The profit would always be, oh, I'll make the profit in a little while, but let's focus on this, that type of thing. So you always got to keep that in perspective. All right, so at one point, back to Ford. At one point, Ford didn't have enough money to make payroll. That could be a problem, right? His employees were not going to get their paycheck. All right, it was then that Ford's accountant, Norman Cousins, directly disobeyed Henry's order and shipped a railroad car full of 50 automobiles before Henry had inspected and approved them. All right, so this was a big deal back then for Henry Ford, because Henry had a unsaid rule in his company that no cars would be shipped unless he actually inspected every car. He wanted to make sure, since that car had his name on it, that when it left his plant, it was ready to leave. However, the problem is timing here. All right. Henry had not had time to inspect the cars because he was involved in building some part to the motor, as I recall, that kind of got him tied up. And so he couldn't make payroll because he hadn't shipped the cars. You're not going to get paid until they ship. So Norman Cousins went behind his back, so to speak, and shipped the cars because they needed the money. All right. And thank goodness he did it because it kept the business solvent. All right. So in a way, Norman Cousins, especially in the beginning, was crucial to Ford's survival because he was counting the beans and was able to see the big picture. Cousins could clearly see which priorities mattered and what steps needed to be taken to stay in the business and not go bust. It's no different for you as a trader for a variety of reasons. One is, if you're not going to keep good records, then in a way, how can you count the beans, right? So as a trader, we need to know where we stand at the end of every trading day from a P&L situation. And let's face it, there's things that we test and things that we try, new concepts, and we need to know if they're working properly. And the only way you're going to know is by keeping track of the trades and see how those particular rules are doing. Are they profitable? Are they not? What's the average win? What's the average loss? How many trades have you made? What's your win percentage? What's your payoff percentage? How many days have you been in a trade? What's the average number of days you're in a trade? All these items are all about counting the beans. Okay, so really important to keep that in mind. All right, so let's keep going. So back to our story on Ford. So Henry was furious at Cousins when he found out the cards had been shipped without his approval, given that he was such a perfectionist. But Henry was also surprised and happy when he found out how much money he had made because his accountant had shipped the cars. Okay, so there you have it. Without Cousins, Henry Ford would never have been able to be the visionary that history remembers. And so we learn an important lesson in trading survival. The bean counter is essential. And you can be your own bean counter. If you want to hire somebody like Cousins, you certainly may do so. But also, too, if you just simply use good record-keeping tools like the Trader's Assistant, there's your Cousins. In fact, Gene, we should call the Trader's Assistant Cousins, right?
Yep.
I mean, and essentially, that's what it's doing for us. It's keeping track of our beans, so to speak. All right, so this story clearly shows that even if we are not big fans of all the minute bean counting, as traders, if we want to achieve consistent and lasting profitability, we do have to keep an eye on the profit, part of the equation, and also your expenses. Okay, it's very easy to run up a lot of expenses, so you got to make sure those are covered. All right, so I want to just go over 3 steps that'll help you get on the right path. All right, and here they are. Set up a record-keeping system now, not later. Let me ask a question of those that are out there. And if you're watching the recording, ask yourself the question, all right? How many are set up a record-keeping system now and not later? How many can do that? How many are using one already? How many people are using a record-keeping system already? All right, good, quite a few. Excellent. I'm looking at the chat area here on my situation webinar console. All right, so good, excellent. All right, let me ask you a second step. Every day, spend at least 15 minutes tracking your data. So, for example, you know, I run a day trading room and I do trades and so forth every day. All right, I spend about 20 minutes, that's all it takes, going over all my trades to make sure I know which ones are open, which ones are closed, and I use the Trader's Assistant and put those in there so I have them all in one place. And then, of course, I can calculate using the formulas of exactly how I'm doing in terms of win percentage, payoff ratios, and all the numbers that I like to take a look at. So if you're not doing that, hey, just start. You can start. It will take you about 15 or 20 minutes a day if you're an active trader. So always keep your eye on the ball when it comes to your trading performance stats. And you know, again, I mentioned this earlier in another webinar I did today, but think of being in an elevator with somebody and they turn to you and you got about 30 seconds to answer them and they say, how's your trading going? Okay, now you could answer, okay, it's going good. That's a very general statement. But you want to freak the guy out? All right, here's the way you answer. Okay, my win ratio is 70, my win percentage is 71%. My payoff ratio is 2-to-1. My average winning trade is XYZ. My average losing trade, and give them a whole bunch of statistics. You personally should be able to do that, because if you can do that, that means you're on top of your trading. And if you're doing the numbers every day, then you'll have those numbers on the tip of your tongue, right? All right, so let me share a little bit about the trading system that I developed called the Traders System and just show you what the card system looks like. All right, so you first want to create a trade posting card. And this is where Gene helped me develop this into a really cool looking type of card here. And if you're using the Traders Assistant software, we have these built into there as well. But here's where you record your data on each and every trade, from when it opens to when it closes, the strategies for the trade, trading psychology and their trading notes. Okay, and then of course you'll know your profit and loss. The cool thing is when we first developed this, and it was not software, we basically had 3 boxes, 3 index boxes, and these cards were the size of an index card. And basically we would have a pending trade box and a open trade box and a closed trade box. And it was really, really handy because I always knew what trades I had open, especially when it came to futures. That was really important, so I wouldn't take any delivery of anything. Okay, so always know what you're doing in terms of your pendings, your opens, and your close. And notice here on the card, very specific, you can put the symbol, whether it's a day trade or position trade, the close date, is it long, short, and gives you all the statistics on the buy, the sell, the P&L, brokerage account, stop loss. Notice I give you several columns for this because you may have a stop loss and then change it. So you need to cross this one out and replace it with the new one. And then notes, okay? Place to put your notes, why you took the trade, how's the trade doing? You can put different dates on the note. They'll always keep you, updated on what's going on. Now, if you think about it, even after you close the trade, this is something you can go back and look on. And when you have enough of these, you start to see a pattern develop on what types of trades worked well for you. Go in and take a look at your notes, see what rules you were using, and then you'll find out what's working and what's not. And here's some different types of cards depending on what kind of trader you are. We have stocks, we have options, and we have futures. Okay, not really built for the Forex market, because the Forex market's a little on the tricky side. It's done a little bit differently than these other markets. All right, and then we have daily ledgers, okay, where you can record data from a micro level to a macro level. And this, for example, is one where it says the daily trade ledger. So if you're day trading or whatever position trading today, this is what you would use. Okay, filled trades, okay, largest winning trade, all that information down here. All right, and then we go over and here's the daily worksheet. These are placed orders but not yet filled. Weekly trading ledger. So then what we do is take the ledgers, the daily ledgers, Monday through Friday, and we start putting the trades in here. Okay, if you trade over the weekend, we give you slots for that as well. And then you calculate your trades for that week. So then you can look in the weekly ledger and say, oh, this was a good week. I had the largest winning trade of the week, and then you can calculate all the numbers for that week. Whereas in the previous situation, you're calculating the numbers for that day. All right, and then you can progress onto a monthly ledger. So after you have 4 weeks, you put your weeks in here, and then you get your numbers for the month, so on and so forth, okay? So that's kind of how it works. And the great thing about that is that, let's say at the end of the month or the end of the quarter, which would be 4 months, okay, we take a look at that, and we take a look and see, or into 3 months rather, we take a look at that, and we see what the results are for that quarter or month. And then we can actually hammer that down to the individual trade posting cards. So you can go from a macro to a micro to see exactly what trades did well, and vice versa. You can go micro to macro. So it's a really versatile system that allows you to keep really good, accurate records. And you just want to spend a little time at the end of the day. It's kind of like, you know, when you balance your budget in your bank account, you kind of want to do it so you don't get behind, right? Same thing with this. All right, so here's just an example from one of my students way back in 2007, a few years ago. All right, and this is how he kept track of his trades, his P&L, and so forth. All right, so I want to talk a little bit quickly about the formulas. Again, this is exactly the kind of information that's in this book. So, you know, we try to put it very concisely in here for you. So in the formulas, you want to keep track of your data is the first step. The second step, when you do that through the Trader's Assistant, the second step here is to keep these formulas to determine if your performance is improving. And for example, in your win ratio, and this is explained in the book as well, all right, basically it's the number of winning trades over the total number of trades. Very simple, okay? And it's actually a percentage. You break it down into a ratio and then a percentage, okay? And so if you're winning 60 out of 100 trades, that's obviously very simply a 60% win ratio, all right? If you don't have a number so even as 100 and 60, then you have the formula right there, and you just do it. And then your payoff ratio, all right, is pretty easy as well. Take your average winning trade over your average losing trade, and that gives you a ratio. And that ratio is expressed as a number 3. And so you basically have a 3-to-1 ratio where your average winning trade is $300 and your average losing trade is 100. So you're winning 300, losing 100. So that gives you a ratio of 3-to-1. And that's good, okay? I usually don't like to take a trade, okay, unless I can try to get a 2-to-1 payoff ratio out of that, okay? All right, so 3, always keep your eye on the ball when it comes to your trading performance statistics. The stats don't lie, okay? So it's really important to keep track of these stats because that is the real truth of how you're doing. You don't want to live in denial. If you're having trouble, it's okay. All right, slow it down, figure out where the problem is and fix it. All right, if it's just normal drawdown, then it's normal drawdown. And provided you tested your system, you'll know what that normal drawdown amount is for your trading approach. So that's the key of keeping good stats, is to stay within your system's limitations or expectations. Okay, that's important. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me at any time. So this is a trading scorecard that we have available, and basically it kind of breaks down what I think is the important information. We've included this in the Trader's Assistant. This is basically what the Trader's Assistant does. It gives you all these numbers, but this is just a table where you can see it. So it's really important. All right, and you want to watch your equity curve too. Your equity curve will tell you at a glance, if you're a visual person, how well you're doing. All right, and this is an example from our book of the equity curve of one of our students, okay? And as you can see, yeah, it's not a straight line. It's not a straight line. There's gonna be some drawdown periods, but the idea is you want to see the drawdown periods within the norm of your operating system. And if they're not, you're gonna know from the stats. And then you gotta decide, hey, am I seeing a market condition I've never tested before? Or is my psychology interfering with my trading rules? Okay, and from there, then you can make adjustments. So every week, if you're an active trader, depends on how active you are, but every week look for clues within your trading stats to create a more profitable outcome. That's really what we're doing with our stats. All right, we want to improve. We want to improve, and we want to not be in denial. How many traders have you talked to? Have they ever told you, when you ask them how they're doing? Usually, most of them won't say, I'm doing terrible, all right? Or I'm not living up to my rule base. They always just generically say, great, okay? More specifically, the correct answer is if they ask you, you can tell them what your stats are, okay? Be precise. All right, so here's our little ad for our book again, all right? It's a whopping $14.99, so affordable for everybody at Amazon, and Jean's got the link up there, all right? So make sure you get that if you don't already have it. And so whether you hire someone to do your record keeping, like a cousin's, or you do it yourself, your trading performance will improve drastically if you are consistent about it and keep your eye on the ball at all times. All right, I think that's really super important. All right, so all these forms, Gene, are in the book, and the book is, I think, Gene, you put the link up for it, so it's right there. And I want to thank everybody for attending. What a great group. So, Gene, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I don't see any questions, so we're good to go.
Okay, well, I thought that was great. Really great event. And Dave Deming is sending me text messages on my phone. He's in the room as well. But Dave, you're awesome. Thank you. Dave's going to pick up the book. And we encourage you all to pick up a copy of the book. And if you want, write us a review. Of course, we'd love that. The Kindle and the audiobook should be out in a couple of weeks, but the hardcover and the paperback are available now. All right. Well, Bennett, I'll give it back to you just to see if maybe there's any more questions from anybody.
No, I think we're good to go, Gene. I think pretty much record keeping is one of the most important aspects of trading. Of course, using good risk control, but I intertwine that with record keeping. So I think it's as important as entries and exits. You got to keep good records. You got to have good risk control. And this is just another one of these elements that will balance out your trading.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for Wednesday Night Live. And we love seeing you here tonight. And we hope to see you next week and every week for Wednesday Night Live. Have a great night.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Serving traders worldwide since 1998, TradersCoach.com provides educational services for traders and investors alike. We have developed trading software to help traders of every level improve their skills. Our site is dedicated to providing you with all the resources, software, and educational material you need to achieve your trading goals. It is because of our years of experience, attention to detail, and our exceptional customer service that TradersCoach.com is the right choice for you. Call us today.